It's been almost 2 years since players first stepped into the role of Geppetto's puppet to save the city
of
Prague
Lies of
from
P.
disease
Here we go.
and puppet frenzy
Overture.
in Lies of P. Overture
Release
is a
date trailer?
DLC expansion to
Oh
Lies
boy.
of P.
Dude, this game just continues to look so good. I'm so pumped. Look at these animations. Yeah. All right. Bring on that release date. What do you got? What? What? Hey, Mom, something came up. I'm not coming to dinner. Lies of P. You know, I got a real soft spot for this game. My second ever big video on this channel, and the first one that really popped off. First off, to everyone who watched that video back then and subscribed because of that, thank you. Even though I don't consider that video up to my current standards, it's still nice to look back on where I started and see how far I've come. But this game truly shocked me when it came out with how great it was, and how we finally had a game that could actually match what FromSoft had put out. So obviously, because of that, virtually everybody who played was stoked about potential DLC, but things went silent for a long while until we finally got the reveal of Overture in February. Fast forward to Summer Games Fest, where we got another trailer, and the reveal that... Yeah, that intro was my exact reaction. So I immediately got to grinding, bouncing back and forth between this and Elden Ring Night Rain, and after completing it, I can proudly say, whew, we are so back! Overture is everything that I could possibly want for a Lies of P DLC. I could not have been more satisfied with what we got here. While overall it may just be more Lies of P, what I was looking for was how Neowiz and Round 8, which by the way, I never mentioned Round 8 in my original video, and I feel so bad for that. I was looking for how they would improve on some of the problems that I had with the base game and how they would take that feedback into account. And needless to say, the big thing I had a problem with in this game was certainly addressed. And one non-problem that regressed a tiny bit, I'll explain later. But once again, I am floored by how good Neowiz continues to be with this game. But what exactly about Overture makes it a great DLC, and how does it cement Lies of P as the greatest Souls-like that I have ever played? Well, time to tug my puppet strings. So strap in, real boys and girls, and let's get down to business. So Overture transports you back to the past in the early days of the puppet frenzy, and the story of the game revolves around you trying to find the legendary stalker, who you remember from the visions at the end of the base game, and you follow her on a quest for vengeance that may or may not involve some very familiar faces, faces you never thought you would ever see again. So, of course, you know me, we're gonna start this thing off with the gameplay. So what does Overture offer when it comes to the gameplay side? Well, we got 10 new weapons and 2 new Legion arms, and while I wasn't able to fully upgrade all of them and use them, they are all badass. They got cool effects, there's some elemental ones in here that deal status effects. Man, I wish I found the Archer's Guardian sooner. But you also got stuff like bows, Wolverine claws, which I took all the way to the end of the game because Berserker Barrage, bitch. But none of that matters because there's only one weapon that you should be using. And that is the Gunblade, the Pale Knight. I wasn't even able to fully upgrade this thing, but I still tried to use it in the endgame because it's that damn cool.
Peekaboo, you fucks you.
Nothing like sticking your giant greatsword into somebody and then blowing them up. Tell me as a man, that is not satisfying. Tell me as a woman. But as I said, you have 2 new Legion arms, a mini shotgun and a blade thrower that revolves around enemies for a time. Kinda wish they had 1 or 2 more Legion arms, but hey, like every other new weapon in the DLC, it's fun as shit to use, so I'm not about to complain. I will say though, I'm a little let down that there's 4 major bosses and only 2 boss weapons. Like, what's going on here? Why are we cutting back? I'll get into the bosses later on, but the 2 that don't have weapons definitely should have weapons. But aside from that, I love what we got here. And aside from like general gameplay differences, along with Overture releasing, we also had a patch that released alongside it that added a ton of great quality of life fixes. For instance, when you go back to level up, you can just add whatever stored ergo you have to your total rather than backing out and using every type that you have. This didn't need to be in here, but I love that they went ahead and did this. Really cements Lies of P as the most accessible Souls-like without sacrificing its core difficulty. Speaking of accessibility, you now have difficulty options. Now games journalists may actually be able to complete it. And in Overture, you have a new extension of the progression system, which if you give quartz to a category, it buffs 2 different attributes, such as increased attack or increased stagger, even though, to my disappointment, I could barely find any quartz in the DLC to upgrade, so I wasn't able to do this often. But generally, I think this is a nice extension on an already pretty good progression system. I'm very much satisfied with the new offerings here, and since this is Lies of P, you can mix and match handles and blades with all the weapons, and I haven't even done that yet, and I can't wait to try it. So you're transported to Old Krot, acquire some winter drip, and man, there really are levels to this. This game just has that feel, man. The atmosphere of Lies of P is like untouchable when it comes to Souls-likes. The level of dread that's just hanging over you in every area, it's like suffocating at this point. Krot continues to feel like you have stepped into the wrong neighborhood at the absolute worst time. There have been a bunch of Souls-likes released since Lies of P came out, but after I played them and then came back to this, it's like going from a bunch of mom and pop shops to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. That's not even a slight on the mom and pops. That's just how good this is. Like, it's actually incredible how Krot overall looks and feels. And in Overture, it just doesn't stop. Your first area in the DLC is carcass-infested Krot Zoo. You take carcass monsters and mix them with actual animals you expect to find in a zoo. Yeah, that goes about as well as you think. Harambe may have a few angry cousins, and now they have Ebola. Have fun, Timothy Chalamet. Come here. Alright, wait, no, I've been playing too much Night Rain. That's a f***ing elephant. That's an elephant. Holy shit! Oh my god, he hits like a truck! Oh, kangaroos. How fun. Wow, I love Australia. Oh my god, that's a big boy! Yo, he just booked it. Yeah, if you weren't feeling depressed before, Krot Zoo will make you want to go to a real-life zoo right now just to hug the giraffe and tell him that he's safe and nothing will happen to him. That's not even mentioning the rainforest exhibit as you progress further, where you fight the literal robots from Atomic Heart. I truly think that this is one of my favorite areas in the game. I think it's the perfect balance of challenge, aesthetic, and atmosphere, and it's so damn creative. But then you get to the underground research facility, or as any normal person would call it, Alcatraz, a prison full of carcass monsters and fat jailers with long pokers. The alchemist shooters now have freeze guns, the eerie echoes that accompany you throughout the entire area. Not one moment in this area did I ever feel safe. Such is life in a literal prison. Just ask my friend Jeffrey. The excavation site is next, which is the Relica Trismegistus from the base game before it became an ergo farm. And this is your basic cave that you've seen in most Souls-likes. Really, nothing really interesting here. You got some puppets, puppet dogs, robots, probably the most basic in the DLC. But then, oh boy.
Oh shit, here we go again.
The Archon Fleet shipwrecks gave me a new asshole. This is probably the hardest area in the entire game. I really can't think of any other area that pummeled me as much as this did. You are in constant transition from pirate shipwrecks and the ice when you're not getting comboed by alchemists that have a very questionable amount of poise. You're getting ambushed and shanked by carcass swordfish while getting acid balls thrown at you. The distance between the starting stargazer and the others is brutal. I must have been walking for like 20 minutes before I ever saw the blue hue. That doesn't sound like a long time, but in a linear game like this, where you have one set path, it's pretty damn long. But it's not bullshit, because you are armed with a very special weapon. It's called the puppet string. I love you so much. Thank you for getting me through this. There is also a beautiful skybox. Just don't look too long, because I also forgot to mention there's a cannon. I'll save the final area for the story section because that shit gets dark. But I mentioned in the intro that Lies of P had a non-problem that they regressed a little bit in. When the game launched, the bigger enemies were way too tanky. Like, it was absurd how many times you had to hit them. But they released a patch soon after that nerfed them a bit and made them more tolerable. In Overture, they buffed them again.
What?
Now, at least from my recollection, it doesn't feel as bad as it was at launch, but on the damage scale, if launch was at like a 10 and the patch dropped it to a 5, Overture brought them back up to like a 7 or an 8. I didn't feel like it was as bad, whereas when the game first came out, I was like, this needs to be fixed like right now. Now, it's tanky, but still doable. But the reason I say it's regressed is because you figured this out in the base game already. You patched this out. It's adjusted. It's fine. Why are you buffing them again? Did people complain that it was too easy? I don't know what the reason is. I watched the director's letter and Ji-won Choi said that they heard feedback on the combat and they're gonna make adjustments. Maybe that's what he's referring to. I'm not sure. But I don't get how you figured out the health and defense for them in the base game and then went away from that in the DLC. It's like it didn't need to be adjusted again. It was fine. But despite that, it doesn't take away from the fact that Overture's level design is just another reminder that Neowiz knows what they're doing and they're damn good at doing it. But the main question is, how did they address what we really came here for? How did they handle the boss, baby? So in my original video, I was 50-50 on the bosses in Lies of P, and before Overture came out, I went back and played through it to prepare, and my thoughts are the exact same, including on Luxasia. She can kiss my ass.
Fucking thing sucks!
I felt that the bosses in the base game, especially towards the end, were way too reliant on delayed attacks and attacks that switch up the speed, which I felt was A, a slog to play through, and B, cheap difficulty. So I was curious to see how this would go in Overture. Turns out, they listened to me.
You humbled me once, and I took that hard lesson and I bettered myself.
This is an incredible boss lineup. We have 7 in total, 4 main and 3 mini, and every single one of them was a blast to fight. Oh, and there's also a side one I'm not talking about because it's the green monster of the swamp again. I'm not even going to edit out my phone notification. That's how little I care about it. They all just get after it. There is very little wasted time with attacks. There may be a delay here or there, but it's not the majority of attacks like a lot in the base game. If we're going to take the tier system like I did in the original video, 3 of these main bosses are in that S tier range, with the King of Puppets and the Nameless Puppet.
Psych!
And when it comes to mini-bosses, they're great in their own right too. Even the Tyrannical Predator, who's supposed to be the intro fight for the DLC, I loved fighting him. He's a giant mutated crocodile that can mess you up if you're not careful. Yeah, the camera might be a little wonky, but it's still good. Actually, before I go any further, because I made this mistake in my original video, if any of you guys don't want to be spoiled on the bosses, here's the timestamp right here. Go to it. Go to it now. And alright. The other 2 mini-bosses are typical NPC fights, but they're not just throwaway fights. They're important characters in the lore. You know those 2 stalker groups you heard about in the base game? The Bastards and the Sweepers? Yeah, these are the 2 leaders. Just dropping that in there when they mention in the main story that most of the stalkers were killed, you can now have on your conscience that you killed the guys who were leading them. Great job. I mean, Lumakia was an asshole, so that's okay. And the fights are probably the most ball-busting at first because they both dole out just constant pressure. And if you don't know how to parry, you're pretty much roadblocked. It was at this point that I knew the bosses were going to be great because if they're putting this much effort into these mini guys, what are the main fights going to be like? Phenomenal, that's what. The first main boss you will fight. Damn, Smurfette, how you doing? Marchiona is a dominatrix that wants for nothing more than to step on you. And from my perspective, I don't see a problem with that. You know what else I don't see a problem with? Calling this the best duo fight in Soul's history behind Ornstein and Smo.
You got some set of balls, you know that?
Yeah, I said it. This fight is that damn good. You're not just fighting Marchiona, you're also fighting her Valkyrie arch puppet, and this works so well because of one genius idea. The arch puppet is connected to a string that Marchiona is holding, and when you're fighting both of them, the color of the string determines who's doing the attacking. If it's blue, Marchiona's in control, and if it changes to orange, the arch puppet's about to attack. So if you get blindsided by an attack, it's your own damn fault, because there's always going to be an indicator right in front of you. But sometimes they'll have a specific combo that involves both of them, so you always have to watch out for that color change. But even when you know what's coming, their moves could still whoop your ass, as Marchiona herself can hit you with Papa Smurf's big blue balls, and the arch puppet has combos that I still haven't gotten the motions of down yet. I'm just bad, I guess. Not to mention that if the puppet gets down, Marchiona can revive it, but if Marchiona dies, the fight is over. So you know which one you should be targeting. Not to mention her voice is just... Ugh.
I was told that murderous puppet had come to call on me. So who is this handsome guest standing before me? To think I became anxious when told a fearsome foe had arrived. What a fool I was.
I legitimately cannot find a single thing wrong with this fight. I love it to death. This is the first main boss, and we're going this hard. You know who else goes hard? The two-faced Overseer. And again, I love this guy. His design for one is awesome. And for his fight, I have not had this much fun getting destroyed in this game. And I just fought Marchiona. This dude is a powerhouse. Every one of this guy's shots take almost half your health, and he's a tank. But despite that, he leaves a lot of openings for you, so it's not just a constant barrage. And to keep the fight fresh, he has 4 phases. 2 phases, but they're split up 2 each. The first one, when he's coming down to 75% health, he gets really angry, turns red, hulks up, and you better pray that you dodge these attacks. He starts adding more successive attacks and adds more moves to the combos that he had before. Oh shit, it's the attack from the trailer. You know what? That's badass. You gotta give it to him. Then when you get him down to 50% health, he switches back to yellow, and when he gets to 25, he goes back to angry red again. Normally in Souls boss fights, you're scared to get hit, because it means you have to expend resources or you straight up die. With the two-faced Overseer, you are terrified of getting hit, which makes him all the more incredible and enthralling. And last one for now, because I want to save the final boss for the story section. Tumor Boy here. The Anguished Guardian of the Ruins isn't as great as Marchiona or the Overseer, but this is still a pretty good fight. This giant carcass monster thing that uses both a small sword and a giant anchor-looking thing, Sideswipes is the name of the game, but hitting his little rock tumors on his face and his hand is how you beat him. And you're gonna need it to get that stagger meter blinking, because this guy, like Overseer, is a tank. Phase 2 is where he introduces light damage AoEs and laser breath, and that's the boss fight. He also has the first of 2 Fatal Attack cinematics, and this looks incredible. And you know, throughout all of this, if you're sad that the fight is over, don't be, because we got a boss rematch mode! You can fight every single major boss in Lies of P over anytime you want, just like in Sekiro. Why do I keep doing this? Each one has 5 difficulties. The highest I've gotten to at this point was level 4, but just see for yourself how this goes. Oh my god, dude, what? But yeah, I am blown away by how much of the feedback Neowiz actually took for the bosses and how much better they got in Overture. I am so happy for them, because aside from all the little things they did wrong, this was the one area where I felt it was imperative for them to improve upon. And seeing that they not only did, but exceeded what I was looking for, brings a little tear to my eye. Alright, story time with ZD Boy, baby, and I'm telling you right now, you don't want to know if you haven't beaten it yet, so here's the timestamp. Alright, let's roll. So as somebody who thought that the story in Lies of P was actually the best part of that game, I was excited for where Neowiz and Round 8 would take this narrative. And yeah, this just cements this as one of the best stories in all of Souls history. As I said, Overture is a prequel story where you have to track down the legendary Stalker, but the Stalker, or Leia as her real name is on a quest for vengeance. And how they bounce back between you and Leia is extremely well done, because you don't know what she's chasing at first and why she's in such agony when she finds that bloody statue. But then as you get further in, you find out that she's looking for none other than Romeo. Wait, you mean Romeo, the King of Puppets? Oh no, this is gonna be awkward. Yeah, it turns out that Romeo, who at this time was a stalker, had gotten word of a notorious killer called the Blood Artist, and went off on his own to find him, but he hasn't come back. The story really does a great job at portraying Leia. The woman who is known as the legendary stalker is now inflicted with the petrification disease and feels like she's holding on to one last hope, the hope of finding Romeo. You see, Leia trained Romeo and Carlo, and since Carlo is dead at this point, Romeo is pretty much the only family she has left, since everybody is either dead or missing. It's also where you find out that she's part of the Monad family, meaning she is the daughter of Valentinus, head of the alchemists before Simon Manist, which means she is the sister of Sophia. So yeah, Leia's a pretty important character in the Lies of P lore. It's also incredibly cool when you finally meet up with her and team up to fight through to the Rose Estate, which is where you see exactly why she's called the legendary stalker.
Jesus Christ!
But then you arrive at the Monad Charity House, and this just becomes a glass case full of emotion. You walk in and immediately see the dangling, sliced off arms of Romeo. The Blood Artist got him. You walk through the house, and it's just a massacre. Dead bodies everywhere. Carcass monsters just sitting there and not attacking you. It's a real sad sight. And then you remember that one pamphlet you picked up in Rosa Isabel Street talking about the Rose Estate incident that stopped being investigated, and you realize you're in the event right now. The way Lies of P is just able to beat you down with depressing story beats and visual storytelling just enthralls you at every turn, because you, in turn, become more invested in stopping whatever evil this is. Even the NPCs you talk to throughout the DLC have this cloud just hanging over them. You meet up with the real Alidoro and get him as a companion at Hotel Krat, and you can feel he's a good man, but you know what's gonna happen to him if you played the base game. Lumacchio, the leader of one of the stalker groups, you kill him later because he's a traitor. That small puppet, Rosora, you help her throughout the game to get her to the Rose Estate, and that's a tearjerker by the end. Why am I getting these torn up pictures? But who's doing all of this? Who is this notorious blood artist that's being built up like this dangerous entity that's killing all these people and strong enough to take down a stalker like Romeo? Believe it or not, you actually know him quite well.
I worry about Leia. This may be a fight she cannot face alone. Look into the name, Arlecchino.
Son of a bitch!
Yeah, Arlecchino, the guy who's given you riddles in the base game, the psychopath you meet at the Isle of Alchemists that talk about how the only thing that drives him is blood and revenge. You hear in the base game how he was this dangerous serial killer, and it turns out Overture takes place when this guy was at his peak. Turns out he isn't just a serial killer that's offing random humans. He was strong enough to take down stalkers and strike fear into the hearts of everybody who knew his name. That ratchet-ass broken puppet caused all this trouble, and we're living in the time when he was doing it. On top of that, he has a grudge against Leia because she stopped him years ago when he first started killing, and now this capturing of Romeo is all just to get back at her. So you know exactly what you have to do. You have to stop this murderous puppet and save Krat from another killing spree. And then you see him. This guy looks fucking terrifying. You want a puppet psycho killer? This is your guy. That fancy white coat he's wearing, you think he bought that from Macy's? I would bet a good amount of money that he probably wears white because he could see the blood of his victims on it. And I'd also make a pretty good bet that that skin on his face, that's not his own. All this shit runs through your head, and then you remember, oh shit, he's the final boss. And quite possibly, the best boss in all Lies of P.
Romeo's on the clock. You appear to be nothing but talk.
In the backdrop of Romeo's near-dead body hanging from the arch in the back of the arena, the giant pool of blood at your feet, you finally face quite possibly the most dangerous character in all of Lies of P lore. And as soon as the fight starts, you see exactly why. Everything comes out so fast, you can barely figure out what's happening. Arlecchino's combos will have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 strikes in one, all coming out one after the other, and they all come in pairs. He could start a combo, dodge back as you're dodging, and then resume the combo after you've been thrown off already. If you try to heal at any point, he'll lunge at you. It's input reading, yes, but it kind of works with his character, since when you heal in this situation, his eyes light up red, almost like he as a puppet is detecting a moment of weakness and exploiting it. If you're not constantly strafing right and working in those parries, you're not gonna win at all. And while all this is going on, he's throwing in these sadistic voice lines.
A human is only truly honest when their life is on the line. Wouldn't you agree?
And he's constantly laughing. You know how damaging it is to your ego when a very hard boss is laughing whenever he gets hit? It's like, dude, I'm giving this motherfucker exactly what he wants. So if you happen to survive that onslaught, Phase 2 hits. And you know you've done your job well when the Phase 2 cutscene happens and you're just sitting there like, oh shit.
The alchemists offered me nothing but boredom. But you two, you'll offer me something greater, won't you?
Holy shit, dude.
Look at this design. Tell me this isn't incredible. Getting real strong Millennia vibes from this, but that's just me. You want to see how Phase 2 opens up? Bro, how in God's name am I supposed to handle that for the first time? That Millennia comparison is looking more true every minute. If you thought Phase 1 was bad, Phase 2 not only has those sweeping combos, it's got delayed AoEs that come with it, back buzzsaws that give you break, which makes you heal less, one of the most brutal looking grab attacks I've ever seen. Jesus, dude, stop! I'm already dead! In the words of the great Keegan-Michael Key, you are gonna get your scrotum turned into a change purse. Arlecchino might be one of the most brutal fights I've ever played in a Souls game, but if you choose, you have a secret weapon. A weapon named Help Up Leia. So you can fight Arlecchino with Leia, and given that this is her story too, and after everything that's happened to her, maybe bringing her in is the right choice. Which is where we get the second Fatal Attack cinematic for this, and honestly, for as cool as this looks, it really should do more damage than it does. I mean, you're seeing what's on screen right now. You're telling me that just does this? But this all lends itself to what might be the best boss in the entire game. The only one that can compare to it is the King of Puppets, because I truly think that fight is perfect. But if you're in that company, that's all you need. While I admit I did need Leia to beat Arlecchino, I'm going back through the boss rematch right now to try and beat Arlecchino solo. It's not going well. So now that you've beaten the Blood Artist, you've stopped his rampage, but despite conquering Krot's boogeyman once and for all, none of this feels like a win, because you already know what's gonna happen next. Leia has the petrification disease. She looks like she's on the verge of dying. Arlecchino's put down, but he's not dead yet. And given what he's done, what he got ultimately on the Isle of Alchemists is nothing. He deserves much worse. And as Leia sits with a near-dead Romeo on her lap, you realize you didn't save anyone, because you know that while Arlecchino started this job, you're the one that's eventually going to finish it. And then Geppetto shows up, and something tells me this isn't gonna work out for Leia. So then you're transported back to the present, and who does this white butterfly lead you to? None other Then Rosora, who turns out all along was a childhood puppet friend of Carlo. Those torn parts of a drawing you've been getting were a picture of the Geppetto family with Rosora holding hands with him. I mean, if you're not feeling anything with this, someone needs to take you to a doctor. I cannot understate how impressed I am at Neowiz's ability to weave a story through a game like this and not only have it make sense, but hit you in every feel that you have. I absolutely love this game, and I absolutely love this story. If you need any other reason to call Lies of P the greatest Souls-like ever made, Overture just came out and just ended that debate instantly. It's a DLC that reinforces everything that the base game did right, while showing that improvement that we all wanted to see from a first-time Souls-like developer. Yeah, you probably forgot that this was Neowiz and Round 8's first big game, and this is what we get? How can you not be impressed and not be rooting for them to succeed? I truly think that Overture is going to be for Neowiz what Artorias was to From Software, in that the base game was great, but had some problems, and the DLC came out and fixed them, and from there, for Miyazaki at least, they went on an almost undefeated run. I think Overture is going to be that same thing. I think Neowiz has shown that they've learned from what their base game did, and now that they know that, sky's the limit for them. I have nothing but gigantic excitement for Neowiz and Round 8's future, and it's been 2 years, that's enough time. Seeing that Oz is going to be their next setting with Dorothy as their main character, that tickles my insides. I wonder what their game's going to be called though. I mean, you can't exactly call it The Wrath of D, but yeah, Overture is great. If you haven't played it yet, get on it. If you haven't played Lies of P yet, what are you waiting for? So, that's all I have to say for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Thank you so much. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to ZD Boy for more great content. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!